Well, that was a busy week. Very enjoyable for sure. And wanting to keep up with doing a video a week. So here's my short video. I think the last couple of days have set me thinking about evidence, belief, truth, and moralising, bizarrely. I was at the I was at the Association of Breastfeeding Mothers conference yesterday, and it was thoroughly enjoyable. It's always great to be around passionate people that have their focus on helping and supporting others, and I really enjoyed it. I spoke a little bit about how I love evidence, but when I say evidence, I'm not talking about coming to a sense of truth when it comes to interventions or things that we do in the context of health that improve outcomes. Evidence never equates with truth. It only ever points to a correlation. It does its best to eradicate variables so that we can arrive at things that guide our practice. It's always evolving. It never stops evolving, and we're never to really believe in it. It's always to be tested, in one sense, in our existential experience. And we can only test it through our senses. I think I quoted Heidegger, and it might not have been him, but one of those geezers said, we never observe nature directly, but we only ever observe it, or we only ever experience it through our questioning. So our questioning guides our results. I think that's pretty much accepted. What tends to happen, I think, in my experience and as I observe others, is that the fruit of evidence ends up the source of our beliefs. And we start believing in evidence as though it's true. I joke sometimes that when some people say the evidence says, it's really just a marker as to where their thinking stopped. I think this is so important. And today on Twitter, there's been a discussion about the moralising of breast is best, and at the conference we spoke about that term. Breast is best was probably invented by milk companies because it sets up a fraction. It sets up, well, breast is best and therefore what you're doing isn't best. In one sense, it kind of leads to a moralising of an action. Like if you choose not to breastfeed, having read all that's written about it, you're somehow morally less superior than someone who does. Now, I don't think there are people in ABM that believe that, but I understand that that is one of the potential outcomes when we start believing in evidence as though it's true. The very nature of scientific inquiry is that it will be forever expanding. There will forever be new things to find out and discover, and we will soon find out that what we thought was right wasn't. Newtonian universe gives way to, quantum way of seeing the world. Einstein certainly didn't like some of the ideas in quantum physics, and we see that science is constantly testing what it's finding and coming up with new ways of seeing and experiencing the world. So it seems to me that that can happen in the context of infant feeding, where a certain way of behaving gets moralized. It gets kind of solidified in a right and wrong rhetoric. It can happen in the context of birth, where the word normal birth can encourage a moralistic belief that this is the way it should be. I prefer physiological birth, but the same can be done with that word. Normal, I think, is a word that I want to avoid for this reason. Because if you don't have a normal birth, you have an abnormal one, Same could be true for physiological. If you don't have, we'll end up with normal physiological birth. Look, there's no room for moralising. There's no room for allowing our belief in evidence to solidify around practices that become routine and unthinking. Richard Feynman, that great physicist, said, when it comes to science, one of the rules of thumb is don't fool yourself. And you are the easiest person to fool. Thank you very much.